What's up, world? I'm Cameron McKinney, and this is Pop Culture Spotlight, a podcast about the movie Tuner. Here's a quick synopsis. Nicky White is a piano tuner who was once a piano prodigy himself, but had to quit due to having hyperacusis, making him super sensitive to sound. When his mentor Harry is hospitalized, Nicky turns to crime to pay for his care. The film stars Leo Woodall, Havana Rose Liu, Dustin Hoffman, Leo Woodall, Tova Feldshuh, and Jean Reno. Standout performances. You can call this a fault of mine if you want, but I have always been a sucker for movies where a good enough character goes for a life of crime. Some of my favorites include Baby Driver and Drive, the two films with getaway drivers who don't care for violence. Tuner has some things in common with both, but is more similar to Drive in its tone. I just love the premise of a guy who commits crimes just for a short period of time and then attempts to get out, but the crimes come at a cost. The best movies are the ones that illustrate that, and the worst are the ones that feel derivative, and a lot of it comes down to the leading man, and Tuner has a good one in Leo Woodall, who brings real intensity to the movie. He's got some Tom Hardy in him, and I mean that as a compliment. There's a real innocence with the character of Nicky that the movie desperately needs, or you would not root for him whatsoever. He can convey so much with a facial expression without saying anything. What Woodall is doing is smart in that it's what young actors used to do, be in movies with established stars. He's now worked with the likes of Renee Zellweger, Russell Crowe, Rami Malek, and in Tuner, Dustin Hoffman. When you see him stand out against Oscar winners, you realize he's the real deal. It's one of the things that helped Tom Cruise establish himself so quickly. He was in movies with Dustin Hoffman, he was in movies with Paul Newman, and he was in a movie with Jack Nicholson. These right here are the two fastest ways to becoming a movie star. Number one, be in hit movies. That's obvious. If you're in a movie that everyone sees and you're really good, people are going to take notice. The other is be in movies with already established superstars. People will be impressed if you hold your own. Leo Woodall will next star in Tony, a movie I'm highly anticipating with Dominic Sessa and Antonio Banderas, and The Custom of Country with Sydney Sweeney. What happens to me from time to time is I'm watching movies and then all of a sudden I realize I've seen this performer in other films, and that is what has happened with Havana Rose Liu. Here are the films she's been in recently: Bottoms, Lurker, and Oh What Fun. Two of those are very good, and she's giving three really good supporting performances in all three of them. In Tuner, she is playing a familiar type of character, although usually played by a male, a driven person who acts like they have no time for a real romantic relationship. Think Jesse Eisenberg's Zuckerberg in The Social Network, or Miles Teller's Andrew in Whiplash. She brings the proper intensity to someone who believes that what they are doing is uber important. I will be talking about Liu once again in a couple of weeks when I do an episode about the film Power Ballad. Her upcoming films include Alex Garland's adaptation of the video game Elden Ring with Kit Connor and Kaylee Spaney, and The Debut, a musical comedy from Jesse Eisenberg with Julianne Moore and Paul Giamatti. We all know the classic Dustin Hoffman performances in The Graduate, Rain Man, Tootsie, Wag the Dog, among many more, but what about his recent acting efforts? The good performances are few and far between, but every once in a while he does noteworthy work. In 2017's The Meyerowitz Stories with Adam Sandler and Ben Stiller, As They Made Us with Diana Agron and Simon Helberg. In Tuner, the two-time Oscar-winning actor plays Harry. It's the type of supporting role Hoffman should be playing at this juncture of his career. He shouldn't play a lead, give him a few scenes, and he can still still make something out of it. I do think it must be very hard for a leading man who's been the lead of so many movies to transition into being a supporting actor. I think among the many legends, Robert De Niro has done it best. I mean, that is a guy who knows how to give a really good supporting performance. And then I look at a guy like Al Pacino. I think when you think of all the great Al Pacino performances, they are mostly leading performances. He is not somebody who has turned into a great supporting actor, although I did really enjoy him in House of Gucci. My point is, I think Dustin Hoffman deserves a little bit of credit for giving good supporting performances when he's so used to a movie being completely built around him. And why exactly does a movie like Tuner cast a legend like Dustin Hoffman? So audiences take notice. So they take this movie seriously because they've seen the Dustin Hoffman movies of the past, and they hope that this movie can live up to those ones. Don't get me wrong, Dustin Hoffman isn't going to be the reason anybody watches the movie Tuner, but it might be one of the reasons they look at the movie as legitimate. They go, oh wow, Dustin Hoffman's in this movie? Maybe it is going to be something special. I'm used to his stellar track record. For me, it makes sense that Dustin Hoffman is in this movie because one of the reasons I really connected with Tuner is because it feels like an old school thriller that the major stars of the 1970s would have starred in. Names like James Caan, Al Pacino, and Dustin Hoffman. A few decades ago, Hoffman would have been the lead of this movie. It's a character study about real people in real situations. And quite possibly the thing I respect most about the film Tuner is that every scene has a purpose. For instance, there's a scene in Tuner where Nikki gives Ruthie, played by Havana Rose Liu, a very expensive gift. The beginning of the movie brilliantly showcases how Nikki is alone and wants to be in a romantic relationship. So this is what happens when he's in one. He's so innocent that he believes this to be normal behavior. Maybe it's a weird thing to say, but the movie is so good at explaining the actions of the characters. Everything is there. Another thing I really liked about this movie is it's so grounded in reality. It's not heavily stylized. It's one of those movies where this is a decent enough guy who gets into such a specific situation. That's why he is committing these crimes. And again, I want to go back to Drive. I want to go back to Baby Driver because this character, Nicky, wants to avoid violence at all costs. The crimes that he is committing is breaking into safes. Like, he wants nothing to do with hurting other people. These kinds of thrillers are obviously built like that because they want you to root for the leading character. If Nicky was uber violent, you would not like him as a person. You would not root for this romance. I mean, if you wanted to, you could really label it as a cheat code, because here we are, we're giving this character a mentor who gets sick so that he has a reason to do bad things. My counter argument to that is this is a movie, and there are so many movies built upon a similar premise. One of the big things that makes this movie stand out amongst some of those other films is this is about a guy who was great at something else. I mean, Nicky was a great piano player throughout the movie. Harry is desperately trying to get him to play a song, and he refuses. This is a guy who lost out on a dream. He's not a master criminal. He's just a guy who desperately loves pianos. That is something you rarely see in a crime thriller, like an element that on its own could be its own film. I mean, there could be a movie about this guy as just a piano prodigy, but then you add crime on top of that, and it makes this movie extra special, in my humble opinion. I want to talk a little bit about the film's ending without spoiling it. I think Tuner has one of those movie endings that is going to please everyone. Meaning, after you watch this movie, you are going to think whatever you want about where the lives of the characters are headed. It's ambiguous in a good way. I mean, some movies play on ambiguity in a way that I find to be annoying. I think this movie, Tuner, earns its ending. Now, do I find this film to be perfect? No, I thought some of the plotting was a bit clumsy. Maybe you could argue this is a good thing. I think this is a movie where the film cares more about the outside life of the character than his life of crime. Like, I think Tuner is more interested in Nicky as a piano prodigy than a guy who opens safes. I mean, what's the complaint you hear most about crime thrillers? That they don't care about the romantic relationships, that they don't care about the characters. This movie, you could argue, Tuner is the opposite, that the film is only having its character commit crimes so that it can reach its climactic scene. I think you could watch this movie and try to compare it to the films of Michael Mann. I think the difference with a Michael Mann movie is usually the character is super obsessed with committing crimes. I mean, this guy is kind of disinterested in breaking into safes. He only cares about his girlfriend, he only cares about his mentor, and he only cares about pianos. He doesn't want to be a great criminal because he's lost the thing that he was supposed to be great at. And that quite possibly gets me to the biggest difference between this movie and Drive and Baby Driver. I mean, you watch those movies and you go, wow, this leading character is so cool. He is so good at what he is doing. When you are watching Tuner, you feel bad for Nicky. You feel sad for Nicky because he's never truly gotten over losing the thing that he was obsessed with. If anything, Tuner is the anti-Michael Mann film. It is a film about a man dealing with losing an obsession, not gaining one. Box office, Tuner has made $10 million at the box office on a $7 million budget. I would call it a victory in 2026 for a movie like this to make more money than what it cost to make. Yes, that's where I'm at. I think the bigger victory would be, of course, it making over $50 million at the box office. Maybe that would have happened in, say, 2005, but that doesn't happen anymore. I think a movie like Tuner deserves more box office success, but to expect that from a movie like this is pure insanity. I think Tuner is going to be a movie that people find, and it is going to build an audience as the years go on, especially if Leo Woodall becomes a movie star. People will go back and go, wow, this is the movie that showcased how good of an actor this guy is. Oscar chances. I'm willing to accept the fact that Tuner is not a movie that's going to be a box office hit. I'm not willing to accept the fact that Tuner is a movie that is not going to fare well come award seasons. Leo Woodall should without a doubt be in consideration for Best Leading Actor at the next Oscars. At the risk of repeating myself, I think the whole point of the Oscars is to attempt to put a shine to movies like Tuner. These are the movies that need help. These are the movies that need eyeballs. I get it. You want to nominate the big blockbusters? Go right ahead. That does not mean you have to ignore the smaller films like Tuner, who deserve a lot of credit for how well made they are. I'm not even here definitively saying that Tuner is going to end up being one of the 10 best movies of the year and without a doubt deserves a Best Picture nomination. But I find it very hard to believe that there are going to be 5 better leading performances from a male actor than the one that Leo Woodall gives in the film Tuner. Again, I fully understand and I agree with the fact that the Oscars are trying to attract audiences by giving credit to the bigger studio movies. They, of course, should be doing that. But that doesn't mean you need to lose the middle ground, that you need to stop rewarding the films like Tuner. They exist as well, and in most cases, they are better made movies. Way too many people care about the box office of movies like this. I mean, how could a movie that I like so much not make money at the box office? I understand the state of the world in 2026. People are not going to go out in massive droves to see a movie like Tuner. I get it. It's the Oscars side of things that annoy me way more. Like, why aren't you trying to turn Leo Woodall into a movie star? You know how you turn a guy into a movie star? You get him an Oscar nomination after he gives a career-defining performance. That is how things used to work. Why do they not work that way anymore? I hope I'm wrong, but I think where we're headed is this is a movie that's going to receive 0 Oscar nominations. Tuner is most likely not going to get a Best Picture nomination. Leo Woodall is likely not going to get a nomination for Best Leading Actor. And that's a shame for multiple reasons. The first being, he deserves it. This is going to end up being one of the best performances of 2026. And the second reason being, it means that less people are going to watch this movie because it's not going to get nominated at the Oscars. If it got a nomination, more people would seek out the film Tuner. People still care about Oscar nominations. If a movie is nominated, they might give that movie a try. Thankfully, I think we are talking about a movie that is going to gain an audience, no matter if the Oscar is nominated or not. It's that good. I think people are going to find this movie. I think this is a movie that in 5 years from now, we're going to say, why did the Oscars completely ignore this well-made film? So one thing I've realized already in this year is that I don't think that the crime thriller is going away anytime soon. People still really care about this genre. Crime 101 happened earlier this year, and now you're getting a movie like Tuner. These movies can be so many things. They can be fun at times. They can be entertaining. They're made for adults. I mean, people are so hyped just by the fact that Michael Mann is going to make Heat 2. Sadly, the genre isn't thriving at the box office like horror is, but people still care about these movies. People still want to see their favorite actors in these kinds of movies. Young actors like Leo Woodall still use this genre to branch out as an actor and showcase what they're capable of. Think about it for a second. I probably wouldn't have watched a movie about a normal piano tuner, but you add the crime element and I'm in. It's that easy to get me because I've grown up on the genre of crime thriller. I know what these kinds of movies are, and I know what they can be. Tuner has me excited about the future career of Leo Woodall. I was, of course, impressed with him in The White Lotus, but now I want to follow his film career. I hope he continues to make movies like Tuner. I think the rare thing about him is I can see the ways in which he can be a prototypical movie star, and I can also see the ways that he can be vastly different. And there are not that many kind of actors like that. Again, earlier I mentioned Tom Hardy. You watch a movie like Inception and you go, this is how Tom Hardy can be the world's biggest movie star. If he just acted like this in every kind of movie. But then you watch a movie like Warrior and you go, wow, this is something completely different, but I like this all the same. Leo Woodall can take his career in a direction that we could all see coming. He could be in giant studio films. In fact, he's going to be in one soon. The Lord of the Rings, The Hunt for Gollum. He's going to be one of the newcomers along with Kate Winslet and Anya Taylor-Joy. Not to get on a side tangent, but I'm super pumped to see Jamie Dornan as Aragorn. Tooner feels like it could be the beginning of Leo Woodall's arc as an interesting movie star. And we all know the world desperately needs more of those. This is why Tooner is a film that stars actors of multi-generations. I mean, Dustin Hoffman has you think about the past of films, and Leo Woodall has you thinking about the future. Again, the highest compliment I can give Tooner is that it's reminiscent of those 1970 thrillers that Dustin Hoffman, among many others, were a part of. I don't know if Tooner will have the lasting legacy of those films, but I do think it does those films in that era justice. Thanks for listening to this edition of Pop Culture Spotlight. I'm Cameron McKinney, and there'll be a new episode of the podcast every Thursday on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I highly recommend you check out Tooner. Next week on the podcast, I'm talking about Toy Story 5 from Andrew Stanton, starring Tom Hanks, Tim Allen, and Joan Cusack. So tune into that, and please rate, review, and subscribe.